How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I'm going to go and do one of these contracts on Taymir, the new ones I've added. I start on Drowned Lands. I've got to cut across the map, grab 2 vehicle spare parts, and then head to the quarry map, and I'll get to the rest in a second. These are my 2 Twinsteers. I've still got one of them that's on the lowered suspension with the largest tyres, and it's kind of stopped you being able to do that now. That's the 2 Twinsteers I've got. You can see one's raised, one's sat on its normal suspension, but yeah, they've both got the 63-inch tyres. If I go into this one that's got the normal stuff on, the suspension menu said raised, the tyre said 63-inch or whatever. When I go back onto this one, there's nothing written on the suspension or the tyres. I was just mentioning it, like, if any of you did the little bug or whatever where you could equip the largest tyres but keep the lowered suspension on, they've kind of removed that option now from the game. So if you do have any trucks where you actually did it, try if you can, like, not to adjust it back to the normal suspension, because it won't let you go back. So fortunately I bought one of each. And yeah, I've got both options, and I wanted to take it on this map just to see. I preferred it with the lowered suspension, but with the biggest tyres, because it still goes just as fast in the high range gear, because you've got bigger tyres. But yeah, obviously it's not sat quite as high up, so it's not quite as rollable. Because I believe when they added the all-wheel drive and everything, they increased the steering angle of this a tiny bit, and that also sort of doesn't help with tipping. Obviously it's not made it worse for tipping, it's just got a tighter turning circle, so it's made it easier to tip, but yeah, overall it's kind of improved it. Anyway, got a goddamn horse of a vehicle with me. Another thing I wanted to test though with the Twinsteer was packing vehicles. I like the Twinsteer and I like taking a Loaf with it, but what I often have to do is winch from the front of the Twinsteer to the front of the Loaf and just kind of pull it into the cabin of the Twinsteer as hard as I can, just so it kind of sits on there as well as it can do. But yeah, it can get a little bit wobbly, especially that the Twinsteer gets a nice bit of speed to it. So I'm definitely liking the packing vehicle option. That means, yeah, bring the little professional with me, which, as someone said in the last video, like, why do I always take a Loaf? Other than the fact that I do love myself a bit of Loaf action. It's basically, I use it like a backpack for my trucks. That just think of it like a repair add-on that I can recover at any time, a little bit like a little trailer you can take with you. But yeah, obviously you can't recover trailers, you have to tow them all the way back to a trailer store. With a Loaf I can recover it whenever I like. Yeah, spare repair points, spare fuel, and spare winch just in case. If I do tip with the Twinsteer, I could get the Loaf off, flip the Twinsteer back and carry on about my way. So that's personally, well, there's many reasons to take a Loaf. I'll one day I'll do a video like 1,000,001 reasons to get yourself a horse for a vehicle. And yeah, as for this run, I just wanted to kind of do, I mean, not a proper speed run like I was trying to get the fastest time, but I wanted to try and put my foot down. I was feeling like, yeah, actually being able to get up into the higher gears a bit, because the flooded foothills and Salmon Peak, there is some pretty decent missions on them. To be fair, that mission yesterday, I have to say, what was it, Sunk Giant, or Stuck Giant, whatever it's called, that was actually a pretty cool, well-balanced mission. It was pretty good taking the club, because that's pretty cool now, especially that it's got the raised suspension. But yeah, just overall it was just quite a nice balanced mission. Most of the roads I went down weren't particularly trollish or slow. The swamp where the actual Twinsteer was stuck, it wasn't as ruthless as I expected. I thought, not that it'd be difficult per se with the club, because it's not going to drown or anything, but I just thought, yeah, it'd be the same thing. It'll make you go half a mile an hour just wheel spinning through the swamp, but it actually clawed its way through there. It felt sort of pretty realistic, to be honest. It was, yeah, a pretty good mission. But yeah, generally speaking, playing on them for the last week or so, like, it's pretty slow, steady gameplay, to say the least. Over the top for my liking. Yeah, bringing some trucks back onto the original base maps that came with the game. As I said, the base maps don't seem to have the terrain resistance stats dialed up or whatever, so if you are getting a little bit sick and tired of flooded foothills and Big Salmon Peak for how, like, just much they've been dulled down and slowed down, yeah, try just going back to some of the original maps. Like I say, at least they have added some new contracts, so even if, like me, you've completed pretty much everything on all the base maps, there is a few new contracts to get done. I was just going to loop round here, but the bloody turning circle on this thing is pretty horrific. So in the end, that's on it. I'll just reverse back, go out the way I came. And, oh yeah, another nice thing with the being able to pack the Loaf on the back of the Twinsteer now is, as I said before, I'd have it like winched and just wedged into the back of the cab of the Twinsteer. But then when I went to pick these two vehicle spare parts, or whatever they're called, normally what it'd do is offer to load them from the front of the Twinsteer going backwards, and what it used to do is kind of make whatever cargo you're looking at appear, say, under where the Loaf is, and it'd kind of glitch and ping the Loaf in the air a bit. And yeah, it was just one of those things that if you didn't pay attention to, you'd end up flicking the vehicle off. Because now I can actually pack the vehicle though, it kind of designates the front two spots of the Twinsteer to the Loaf, so it just offered me to put the cargo on the back, which is a bit of a, you know, it's something little, but that's nice, something good that's actually one of the best things from this update. To be honest, for me, I suppose the two favourite things, the raised suspension on the clubs has been very good. It's made them a lot more, yeah, well, a lot more usable, but just they feel more natural. Like I said, I've always liked the clubs. They made it into my top 10 favourite trucks, but yeah, because they caught their chassis plate and everything so much, it just made it a little bit like I said, it was a little bit like a seal scraping along the floor, because it'd always have its chassis in the mud. You'd get quite a lot of wheel spin from it, whereas now they just feel a lot better. And yeah, the other good thing is definitely the being able to pack vehicles. So I grabbed some fuel. To be fair, this little drive through Drowned Lands was pretty nice, pretty simple. Able to motor my way down the roads, although I was keeping an eye. I wanted to see what the damage situation was like, and yeah, for the most part I was picking up 1 or 2 damage. What's that, 9 or whatever? That's not too bad. It's when you hit something that's practically nothing and you see it remove like 50 to 100 suspension. It's like, oh no, ain't gonna last very long. So yeah, through into quarry, and for this one I'm going to cut across pretty much the top of the map. I was going to go through the quarry, but you'll see I ended up turning off a different direction, because once I'm down in the quarry, it's like trying to drive back out of it with this thing. Unless I go right into the quarry and kind of approach quarry hill number 1 and 2 at a bit of a better angle, then yeah, this thing will just tip basically. So yeah, I ended up taking a bit of a different direction. Didn't really need to cut through here, but I thought I'd grab a bit of fuel. You never know. So fair, that's one thing that's always been nice with the Twinsteer, and a little bit like with the GMC, they kind of balanced this thing originally with the intention of never giving it all-wheel drive, so they let other things be pretty decent on it, like obviously the power and everything's decent, but yeah, they gave it like a pretty good fuel tank, and then now they've made it all-wheel drive, they didn't now nerf things like that. Like I said, stuff like the Dolphin, obviously it's an extremely good truck, but then they punish you by taking a lot of the fuel away and giving it a little tank. Whereas yeah, this thing's kind of got the best of both worlds really. It's still got a lot of the perks that made up for it not having all-wheel drive, but then now it's also got the all-wheel drive. Cutting through here as well, I remember coming through here bloody ages ago, but back when I did, I had only the rear-wheel drive, and it made it through here. I didn't have a Loaf, or I might have had a Loaf actually. I didn't have any cargo though. Yeah, it wasn't to say that it couldn't make it through here, but just because there was no power to the front wheels, it was all pushing from the back. That's what she said. And yeah, even in low range diffs on it, was just incredibly slow progress through there. Certainly a much better truck with this all-wheel drive. Yeah, originally I was going to go right, but it's not worth it, so I'm going to kind of cut back out of here. I probably should have just followed the road along, to be honest, but like I said, that was my my original plan. This is normally where I cut through when I do some of the reviews. Go down to the quarry, and as I said, if I went fully down into the quarry, looped around through where I normally pick up the concrete slabs, and go back up that way, but yeah, I don't really want to risk it in the end. I've also got quite a lot of trailers scattered around in the bottom of the quarry. Nothing to do with me, I assure you. Yeah, when I was going through here, I don't know what I get caught on now. I don't think it was a tree stump. The only thing I could think of is it that tree branch that's kind of leaning over. Tried to move over to the side of it, just whatever I'm hitting is stopping me dead. A bit like a tree stump, but I can't see any that would be bothering me. I think there is a tree log or whatever laying along the ground, but this thing's got pretty big wheels, so it usually drives over them, no problem. So I have no idea there. I was like, sod it, I'll cut through this way. As I said, in the end I would have just been better off sticking to the main quarry road and then kind of cutting along the last dirt road nearest to the Zimnegorsk gateway and just kind of cutting the quarry out, really, zipping along the top. But I did want to drive up the third quarry hill again just to see how well it does. I believe I did drive up there in the review, like the revised review, when this thing got a wheel drive, but yeah, We'll send it up there again. Yeah, that's definitely what she said. Yeah, they've got a bit OTT on the fog. I don't know, I can't remember. Maybe Taymir had quite a bit of fog anyway, but certainly since I've added it to flooded foothills and Big Salmon Peak, it seems to be everywhere. Can't get away from this stuff. I don't really mind it, it's not the end of the world, but I quite like it when it was nice clear views. Wasn't liking it in Highgate, although I didn't help because I kind of stopped near the bottom of the hill to change the time of day to try and get rid of a bit of the fog. But I lost all my momentum. To be fair though, with the all-wheel drive and everything, low range diffs on, I was pretty pleased that it got up that far. It kind of gets to a point now where it's seesawing on that rock, so the rears and the fronts aren't really touching properly, but stick a winch on the side to that tree. If it can get high enough to reach that tree, then it's kind of a win anyway. And yeah, it was pretty damn easy to get out of there. I possibly would have winched that tree anyway, because you can tip quite a lot when you're cutting through there. And this thing, yeah, it's not horrific for tipping, particularly that I've still got it on the lowered suspension with the bigger tyres, but yeah, it is certainly tippable, especially when you got like the Loaf on the back and the what they called vehicle spare parts. At least I didn't bring the wrong ones. I've done that a few times before with the vehicle spare parts and the service spare parts. I can't remember what mission, but not good. Yeah, it was this little bit I thought would be awkward. I knew the turning circle would be crap there, but little 3-point turn's not the end of the world. It's this bit. And to be fair, the what do you call it, Twinsteer is fairly narrow for the size of the thing. Like, you try and squeeze a P16 through there, it gets a bit awkward. And yeah, on our way to Rift. So I was watching a video earlier on what's it called in real life? It was a mission on GoldenEye on the N64. Arecibo, I think it's called. It's like the big telescope radar antenna thing. I don't know. It's like a big dish in the mountains with cables suspended all over it and like the radar piece in the middle. Yeah, like I said, what was the mission called on GoldenEye? Cradle. That was it. It was the right pain in the arse of a mission. I think you had to complete that one on 00 before it'd let you go on to the last two, like Aztec and something else. Anyway, it was a bit random, but yeah, it all broke apart recently. The cables snapped and the whole thing kind of fell in on itself. And it's pretty crazy, because like, that thing's been pretty sort of famous for a while. As I said, it was a lot of us know it from GoldenEye, well, the film and the game. And yeah, by pure chance though, one of the cables snapped a little while ago. So it used to have 4 cables, now it's got, well, it had 3. And some of the paint was starting to come off on some of the cables, as they were like obviously loads of little cables wound together to make like a massive cable. Some of the little strands were breaking one by one, and like the paint was coming off the cables, so they already knew that it was possibly going to break at some point. But by chance, really, it was pretty good luck. They'd sent a drone up there to kind of have a look at the cables and see what state they're in and everything, and literally while the drone was up there hovering a few feet away from the cables, the whole thing actually broke. Like, one of the cables ripped out of its mount, the other one then that just suddenly got like twice the load put onto it. Yeah, that started like twanging and all the rest of it, and then the drone guy turns around just as you pretty much see it all smash into the floor. You see the wire kind of cut its way through the dish. It was yeah, pretty cool footage, to be honest. It's one of those, like, an actual natural cable failure on a pretty massive scale that was filmed by a drone from a few feet away. Pretty lucky, pretty cool, sort of rare footage to get, I suppose. But yeah, I don't even know why I ended up mentioning that, to be honest. I was watching it earlier and it was pretty cool. I recommend it if any of you haven't seen it. Certainly not something you get to see every day. And there was apparently people all working there and everything, but I think because they knew collapse was kind of inevitably going to come at some point, I don't believe there were anyone working like in the area where it all collapsed. So no one died or anything like that, no injuries apparently. There's also like someone else set a GoPro up just on the side of the mountain kind of watching it, because again, I believe one of the cables snapped last year, so they kind of knew it was going to happen one day. And yeah, it was pretty cool to see it, but it was also pretty crazy, because for some of us that are a little bit older, I don't know about all the youngest whippersnappers, but I remember that thing growing up. Obviously back in the day it was all up and running and working and being used and everything, and it was just quite a famous sort of thing in a lot of films and programs and all sorts that we all seen and remember growing up. And yeah, it's pretty crazy just see it all dilapidated and falling apart. Anyway, back to this game. Yeah, ticking along. Rift going pretty nicely, all things considered. Nearly made it all through this muddy section, but had to drop down into the low range with the diffs on. Used a little tree on one of the bits a minute ago to kind of improve my steering, shall we say, to scoot me around the corner a bit quicker. But yeah, overall, like thus far, stuff's feeling like it's behaving more normally on some of the base maps. So again, this is why we really need some type of ability to reset missions or just reset maps. It'd be even better in a way if you could just reset maps one by one, because I don't necessarily want to reset every map, but I could go back to, say, I don't know, White Valley and be like, right, I'll just reset it, re-uncover it or whatever, go to the watchtowers again. But yeah, just kind of move back and squeeze a bit more gameplay out of them, because, like I say, I've still got that new gameplay, and I will be going back onto that at some point, as and when I work my way through a few more missions on Big Salmon Peak and Flooded Foothills. But yeah, I've just got to rebuy all the trucks again, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass, really. As for here, I didn't realise until I got here, I sort of forgot that the bridge is out, so you have to cut along here. And I'm not too sure what happens now. I'm hooked to a tree that's attached to the floor. You start to see my winch cable disappearing, unless I'm pulling the tree branch towards me. But as I start to tip now, the winch was not fighting it in any way whatsoever. And then I rolled. And yeah, the Loaf did make it far enough that I could have fired it back up. But I haven't got a crane with me, so I'd have to bring something along with a crane anyway. So I just saved it, restarted the game, and it loaded me back up here. So I just stuck a winch to an actual tree that's seriously rooted in the ground. And we're good to go. This is where the Twinsteer... yeah, the turning circle's pretty bad. But as I said, it's more the fact that this truck's so long, even if the front axles could turn 90 degrees, you still imagine you'd go like a clock minute hand going round in a circle, you'd still have a pretty goddamn wide turning circle regardless. At least they did incorporate Rift into at least one of the new contract things they added though, because yeah, for me personally, I sort of felt like Rift was over pretty quickly. I sort of remember scouting it. I may have completed a few missions on the way round, I can't remember, but it just seemed to be, yeah, in and out, over pretty quick. Yeah, that's definitely what she said. And I think they could have squeezed a bit more life out of this one. It's quite a cool map in a way, but I still think it needs a garage, because having to drive everything from Zimnegorsk to here really doesn't help the situation. And if they just added a garage right at the gateway to Rift, like the entrance, it wouldn't make any difference, because you're only going to bring stuff through the gateway and then appear at the gateway. So by now I think they should just do it with pretty much every map, but particularly this one, because you need to travel 2 maps over. It's the same with what's it called, Pedro Bay? Is it called Pedro Bay? Yeah, maybe. The one that's after Mountain River. You have to obviously start on Northport, drive all the way to Mountain River, through Mountain River to, yeah, I think it's Pedro Bay. And again, it's a pretty cool map. I could see myself zipping around there a little bit, but having to drive 2 maps over to do it, and then if you roll, you've got to recover 2 maps over and all the rest of it. It's just one of those places where I don't hang around a whole lot. Yeah, almost got to the end. I didn't really need to fix this, but right near the end I damaged the suspension and something else possibly popped a tyre. Enough that it was flattened it, so again, that's why you bring yourselves a goddamn professional. Got a roof rack. You can obviously bring other scouts to do it, but the Loaf's got a 300-point roof rack. What the hell was that weird noise? Sounded pretty freaky in my headset just then. Sounded like something screeching at me. God knows. Yeah, anyway, fortunately this one's pretty simple as far as that goes. Just 2 lots of vehicle spare parts, so you could even just bring someone with a sideboard. Anyway, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.